Hello, everybody. It is Monday, the best day of the week. Hopefully, everybody had a great weekend. I definitely got a lot of Halloween, holiday type stuff done this weekend. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully, everybody else is getting out there and still enjoying this season, even though we're living through coronavirus pandemic. Waiting for my friend to join. What are some of your favorite things that you guys do for like the Halloween, fall, autumn season? Hello.
Hi, hello.
How are you?
Fantastic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It was a good Monday.
Good Monday, good start of the week. All the
Exactly.
dreaded Monday.
I had a really good weekend, so I think that that's carrying over into Monday and making it good because there's nothing that's really happened today that's really made it an amazing Monday. I'm just
Perfect.
in good spirits.
Oh yeah, I love setting up a good weekend. So, it just kind of like segue to the rest of the week. So just hopefully, the positivity just carries it through, right?
Yeah, it's all we
Yeah.
can do, right? And try to
Oh
add some
yes.
positivity in the week to kind of get you through.
Oh yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and let you kind of introduce yourself so that people know who you are, and then we can kind of just jump into a discussion.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. My name is Q. It's short for Kiang. I'm originally from Hong Kong, but I moved here and with my family when I was really small, 4 or 5 years, and just moved to New York City and just trying to live the American dream. And, through the journey, I just been trying to also, have a lot of personal growth, personal development, trying to find myself, and hopefully we can spread that message through everyone else as well, and just put a little bit of, impact through our actions as well.
Awesome, awesome. So I've already had two people that are from New York City on here since I started doing these lives. So I've heard that New York is kind of starting to phase themselves into a little bit more of a normal way of doing things. Like, how's that going for you up there?
Perfect. I think it's good just to be, cautious. A lot of people are dealing with the virus and not knowing what's going on, and we're just taking a more precautious step and going through phases. And after going through phases, we also have, things that does like spike up a little bit, if you would, but we're trying to manage it a little bit like more carefully, having a little bit more proximity in terms of what clusters should be closed. But we're opening up movie theaters soon in October 23rd, I believe. We're having indoor dining, so we're just slowly phasing in. So we're having a little bit more and more things to do, and hopefully that kind of carries out. I think the main thing is more about, when we open, how we open carefully, that we just don't open and close, and that really, just changes the whole mood of things when you are like in a mood where you're like, okay, I could do everything now. Now I'm back to square one. But how do we just like, monitor closely and be able to continue to move forward?
Yeah, most definitely. So you said that you were from Hong Kong. Does your family still have ties back there?
Yes, my cousin from my mother's side definitely still have lived there, and some of my other families move over here to like California area, and disperse a little bit from the East Coast and West Coast area. But we still have some family in Hong Kong.
So you kind of probably were communicating with them before coronavirus kind of hit really hard here. I know that I was actually dating someone at the beginning of the year that was in Italy. So he
Oh
was
wow.
there when things started hitting really bad there right before we got hit. So I definitely kind of got a heads up of what to expect. And I was praying that it wasn't going to hit hard here, but it looks like we kind of got the worst of the worst. So we're just having to navigate through that and try to stay positive. Uh, so the thing that we were going to talk about today was just trying new things. I know that when it comes to something that you like to do, like traveling was something that you like kind of enjoy doing, but it's kind of been limited. So like, what are some things that you're doing to kind of stay positive in 2020 during this pandemic, especially in New York?
Oh yeah, I mean, we had like a slow start in opening because we were hit really hard. So there's not a lot of things that we could do in the beginning. So what we did with my close friends that we do a lot of like Zoom meetings where we have like Jackbox Night, which is like an online interactive game. So what we try to do is just find ways to continue to stay connected because a lot of times where things happen, we're shut in. We could easily just like close ourselves or box ourselves in and feel like we're lost, feel like we're disconnected from the world or disconnected from each other. So what we do a lot of times is trying to, okay, let's meet up. Let's have like a little happy hour, or let's just like, try to connect and see what we're doing and how to stay positive and be also productive and just trying to get each other through the movement of things. So we did, a lot of like game nights through Zoom. Sometimes we later on go to cooking because I think a lot of us through this pandemic, with a lack of activities that you can do outside, a lot of people look in the inside and see how we can, continue to develop ourselves. So we did like, cook nights where we with a small group of friends that we are like more intimate and closely with. We have cook nights. We make like spicy chicken wings. I don't know if you ever watched the Hot Ones on YouTube before.
Mm-mm.
So it's a game show where they interview celebrities and they have different levels of spiciness through the wings that they eat. And as the spiciness intensifies, they also have to answer certain questions. So it kind of goes through this like fun journey of what they're going to answer and how they react to the spicy level. So we just kind of like, take on different things and be creative with it and interpret that to our own lives where we, cook different wings and we, just eat through the spicy level. And we're like not good at eating spicy level, but it's just fun to have everyone in the same experience. And we see someone crying, I'm crying, you're crying, and just like a lot of fun when you just be able to share that moment.
Yeah, that's crazy. I probably wouldn't be able to join on anything past like mild because my stomach gets torn up as soon as I have anything spicy. One of my friends was just sending me pictures of like some salsa that he's going to be making and giving out. And I was just like, I'm good.
No,
Like, I will applaud you and I will like tell my friends about it, but I don't want any part of it. Otherwise, I'm
no,
going to
not a
go to the
part.
bathroom and I don't want to do that.
Oh no. Well,
So,
we try slow one step at a time, right? Maybe go from the mild and slowly inch your way forward.
slowly build up my resilience to hot and spicy food.
Oh
Yeah,
yes.
I have definitely been trying to cook new things here recently. Thankfully, I have been able to work out of an office, so I've been able to get out of my house. Um, Thankfully, because where I live, I have no cell phone service, no Wi-Fi.
Oh wow.
So the stuff that you're talking about with like connecting to people, definitely wasn't able to do that. I've been keeping it to very, very small numbers of like face-to-face interactions with
Hmm.
friends. The pandemic's not as bad here in rural Virginia. Northern Virginia is a different story. Like DC is very compact and it got hit pretty hard. But like in my town, I think there was like 100 cases from the beginning back in March until like August. So we were very lucky not to have very many things happen here. But when it first started, I took it very seriously, and just seeing the numbers and stuff rise,
Hmm.
it was very scary. And then once I was able to work out of an office and I was going to gas stations to fill up with gas and grocery stores, it kind of felt a little bit more normal for me. I don't really feel like it's too crazy where I'm at.
Hmm.
Plus, I have nature all around me, so
Oh yes.
I'm not surrounded by tons of buildings and people. So, out of all the different things, I know that at the beginning of this, I tried to learn Italian. I, I
Oh
paid
wow.
for Rosetta Stone, and I learned that my brain wasn't in the right place for that. The more
Mm.
crazy the pandemic got, and then we started with the protests and stuff for the Black Lives Matter, and then the election stuff. A lot of negativity got thrown up into the air, which is kind of why I started doing stuff like this, because it was making it really hard for me to focus on anything. When you have to learn something, especially something you've never done before, the focus wasn't there. So have you tried to pick up any other hobbies other than like the cooking stuff?
Different hobbies is most likely, either mixing different drinks, but I started an accountability group with my friends, and I think that was like a big thing. Not necessarily learning, but of a skill set, but more so learning about each other and how we keep each other accountable. And I think that's really important during this time where, like you said, there's so many things are happening and we easily can lose focus and get distracted about other things. And sometimes we forget to also work on ourselves and do what we are able to be in control of. So one thing we did was just to be able to like, okay, let's stay accountable with each other. So we have group meetings and be able to see, hey, what are the positive things that you do, or what are you felt like that is good news. So it's a way for us to be more mindful that we actually are also producing positive stuff, but being able to be mindful that's like, yeah, we did something good too. And we could continue to, bring that positively work with each other, and as well as to continue on to other goals that we may have. So those are like really fun things that we did. Skill wise, we're trying to do some baking. That was like kind of hard for me because you had to be so exact with everything. One of my friends did a lot of baking. She started making cookies, she started making creme brulees, and I was like, oh my God, like we never know that you have a passion for that. And then I was learning to make what they call Hong Kong pancakes, which is like a mini like little waffle pancakes, if you would. And that was a great treat to learn how to do that and just be able to share that moment. But nothing too overwhelming where I'm like adept. I just want to try different things. And I feel like trying different things allow you to explore whether or not, okay, this is something that's right for me, or this is something that, okay, I like to learn, but not to be able to like, continue that journey as well.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like when it came to New Year's for 2020, I think that a lot of us had a very different year planned when it came to 2020. I like going back on all my friends' posts and just seeing like, oh, this is going to be the year. And I'm just like, how's that year going so far? But I think that there's like, when it comes to what we had planned, I think 2020 showed us that everything that you have planned necessarily isn't going to come true. You can have a global pandemic that knocks all of your plans out the water. I'd actually, like when I posted my YouTube video at the beginning of this year, I was like, I'm going to do more collaborations with my friends on YouTube than I've ever done before. And
Mm.
then like the pandemic hit and I was like, you can't travel, you can't do all of this. And at first I was just like, oh no, like I'm going to have to do exactly what I did last year, which was stand in front of a camera by myself. And then I started realizing that you've kind of got to adapt. You can't
Mm.
stay in that mindset of this was exactly how I was going to do it, and now it's ruined. I had to kind of adapt and change. And honestly, I feel like with this Instagram stuff, I feel like I've kind of shifted in a more positive way than I had originally planned with my YouTube channel. Because before, I really just wanted to travel because this was going to be my year. My job I can do virtually, so I can do it from anywhere. And I was just like, I'm going to travel to California. I'm going to see my friends in Texas. I'm going to go down to Florida, New York, and that didn't happen. What were some of your like beginning of the year plans for this year, and how have you kind of adapted to 2020?
I mean, I just want to go back to what you said. It's just like, I think it is like we have this certain mindset of what we're going to do, and we always want to do more or bigger, or at least, continue to revisit back. And I think it's great that because of this pandemic, we're able to also adapt to be more creative, to be better in how we approach things. So even if you don't get to travel for now per se, now you have a different outlet that you can explore different things with your friends or with anyone close by, because we miss that. For me, definitely it's a lot about certain travel plans have been lost or missed, if you would. It just more scheduled and delayed. But then that gives me options to do other stuff. I know I was going to go to Las Vegas in June and wanting to explore that factor, or going to like North Carolina, or just going to different areas. We all have this like travel plan. And But instead of just thinking about traveling plan outside, we try to do more travel plan inside, just like what you said, surround yourself with nature. So I haven't done much hiking, because a lot of times we get surrounded, okay, let's go travel to different areas, let's travel to different cities, let's go to different parties and whatnot. But this has allowed me to think, okay, how can we do it more domestically? Let's go hiking in this areas. Let's explore our neighborhood even more. So I got to explore more hiking areas in upstate in New Jersey as well. And that brought a different perspective because, a lot of times when we get to hike, we're just trying to like, let's just go hike and go to the top and then that would be it. But this hike has been different because of what pandemic brought about and how the world kind of also were connected. We kind of able to like talk about different issues a little bit more in depth. And that has allowed us to be more connected and talk about issue that matters a little bit more. So I think even though we don't get to travel outside, we're able to explore the more domestic or more, proximity type of places.
Yeah, most definitely. I kind of have walked myself out of the whole going out to the clubs and going to those big festivals where there's tons of people. VidCon is probably the biggest YouTube event that I go to on a pretty regular basis. So large groups was never really my thing. I'm not really a fan of large groups. So for me,
Mm.
I've always been a find a small group of friends and do stuff with. And honestly, like the hiking trails have been more swamped than they've ever been. Like I just went to a hiking trail here near me called Humpback Rock. And normally there's like 4 or 5 people up there and you just kind of like, you can shift around each other. And this time I got to the top and there was probably like 100 to 200 people up there. And I was just like, I don't feel
Wow.
safe going close to any of the edges because there's just too many people up here. And I almost started feeling like it was more safe for me to just stay home than it was to go out into nature because there was just so many people out there. One thing that I kind of ran into is there's new things that used to be very unpopular. So like hiking trails. I have
Hmm.
Monticello here in Charlottesville, which is normally you never really have to buy tickets in advance. You just kind of go when you feel like it. And the restaurants and breweries and stuff around here that have outdoor stuff, I've noticed that a lot of those types of things are now swamped because people are
Mm.
looking for things to do outdoors. I just did a corn maze this weekend,
Oh, wow.
and that was extremely packed. I've done it for the past 3 years, and I've never seen it that packed. Good for business, but
Hmm.
it's definitely changed. So when it comes to some of the activities that you can kind of do at home, when it comes to doing it by yourself when you don't have friends, is there anything that you would suggest for people to kind of do? Because I know that some people's mindsets, it's really hard for them to come up with ideas because they're really focused on the things that they can't do. So,
Mm.
are there things that you've kind of discovered that you can do, even with the restrictions of the pandemic?
I think for a lot of people may want or needing to have an outdoor space for fitness, I found my way to just like work out at home. So that's like one thing that I try to be also consistent. One thing to also notice is to not be so harsh on our own self and be like a super critic that we can't do all the things that we can, but just focus on what we can do and also maybe play a different like a creative way of approaching. So I've been watching like YouTube videos or different people live that does Instagram and just like work along with them. So I felt like I'm safe in my home proximity and also just have enough space that I could work out as well. Another thing that I try to do is also just practice on singing. I'm not like the best singer by no means, but I always like, oh my God, I can't sing, I can't do this, I don't know how. But I think YouTube is a great platform where you could just learn from different people and just like, okay, let me just sing and just do other stuff. So it just becomes like, not necessarily, it just find things that you could think of that might scare you a little bit before, but you never were really able to do. But now just like practice and just get out there and just try a little bit and see how that feels. So I feel like that's always great for like, just like getting out of that fear or comfort zone.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I've been doing here recently that I didn't really do as much before the pandemic was just kind of reaching out to people that I look up to. And
Um,
it's crazy because a lot of people that I really looked up to, like, I just kind of looked at them as like unreachable. I was just like, they've probably got like thousands of people that are trying to message them. And I just kind of looked at myself as like a smaller person that was just kind of off the radar. And I've been really connecting with a lot of new people. I mean, you and I connected during the pandemic. So you're one of the people that I've kind of connected to and found a positive relationship there. But I've also found that there's a lot of celebrities out there that are very accessible now. Just like you and I are kind of sitting at home more, I believe the celebrities are also doing the same thing. Of course, there's tons of ways to stay productive, and I'm sure they're still finding tons of things to do. I've seen a couple celebrities are still filming shows and movies and stuff that are going out. Hopefully, that doesn't
mhm,
negatively impact them. But when it comes to reaching out to people, I think that during a pandemic, during a crisis, when we're kind of dealing with a lot of negativity in our own lives, we kind of forget that there's a lot of people out there to connect with. And
mhm,
I think that one thing that I've done, and these Instagram lives are part of it, is just reaching out and trying to help other people. Because I think sometimes we can be so focused on our own problems and it just seems so big. And then you add the pandemic on top of it, which makes it
mhm.
seem almost impossible to deal with.
Oh
But
yeah.
just kind of reaching out to other people and just creating friendships and asking how people are doing and seeing if there's anything that you can do to help. A lot of people, I mean, even with our own friends that we currently know, maybe it's people we haven't really reached out to. And maybe there's people who we normally see posting all the time and we don't see them posting as much. Just kind of reaching out and just saying, hey, thinking about you today, what's up? And just
Oh
reconnecting
yes.
with those people and rebuilding those friendships that we kind of lost because as adults, we lose a lot of time and it's really hard to connect because we've all got our adult lives and our schedules are all very different. I think that during a pandemic, when time is what we've kind of got a lot of now, I think that's really a good time to reconnect with people.
Oh yeah, definitely agree with that. During this pandemic in the beginning where there was like a low amount of like surgical masks and equipments and stuff like that, I remember one of my friend that acquaintance I just met briefly, but we exchanged social media, just like suddenly just messaged out to me. It's like, hey, how are you doing? And that was just like, oh, like we connected in a way where, you know, you kind of just say hi, bye, and just have exchange social media handles, but then just having that person reach out and just say, hey, if there's anything I can do, are you okay with, you know, your equipment? How's everything with your family? That just meant the world to me. Just like you never know how you can just say hi to someone and just like just ask that question and be able to like care about someone and just, you know, I felt so much gratitude that I feel like, okay, maybe I could reach out to a few people that maybe they need certain things. And a lot of times they just need that conversation. A lot of times, you know, they just want to say, oh yeah, I understand what we're going through because we were going through the same thing and then we can make it through it. And that just like, you know, helps us pull through this pandemic.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of times in tragic times, like if you think about here in the United States when we went through 9/11, I think that we kind of pulled together as a nation and we were just like, we've got each other's back. Like we felt very vulnerable and that vulnerability kind of connected us as a nation. I feel like during this pandemic, in a time where we should be pulling together to get through this, we should be caring about our neighbors. And when it
Mm,
comes to stuff like that, I've seen a lot of disconnect on social media as well. I've seen a lot of people torn apart, friendships destroyed by political opinions, by social opinions. What are some things that you're kind of doing to navigate around all the negativity that you're kind of seeing on social media? Or if you're even seeing it, maybe you don't have it in your friends.
I mean, we definitely, live in a place, even New York, as you think as like maybe the more liberal city and stuff like that. There's definitely different views and different mindsets and whatnot. I think it's more about let's have a conversation and let's see why you think a certain way and just be able to understand where they're coming from and agreeing that you might have just different views and, and be able to express that so that they could understand. I think a lot of times we just jump the gun and be like, oh yeah, you have this view, let me just cut you off and without letting them explain. It could just easily be a miscommunication, a misunderstanding, or maybe they don't even know. And then because you just cut it off, they have a more drawn attitude towards their type of view. And you might have more like, and it becomes more polar. And that just doesn't help the situation at all, right? So I think a lot of it is just more about having that conversation where you can understand where is that coming from, and is there a way where I could explain where you can see where I'm coming from? And if they also agree, and for whatever reason it just parts way, I think that's okay to know and accept those times where you could actually part ways and be more like amicable and you still be like friends with each other, but just not on the views. And sometimes that will help you draw closer because now you understand where they're coming from and they understand where you're coming from. Like, okay, maybe I need to also research more, do more on my own due diligence of what's going on. I mean, this pandemic has made me more aware and trying to do more political investment, if you would, because before, I'm just like, okay, I don't know what my impacts are. I don't know how I can learn. Things are not as interest to me, if you would. But then because of what's going on, it has to be some sort of like engagement. If not, you pretty much saying that you do not matter. And that kind of just spreads throughout everywhere you go. So I felt like, okay, take a little bit more responsibility and on myself and be able to learn more. So then I could also share more. And then hopefully that we could come to a better agreement and become like a stronger community as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of people reaching out when it comes to my life coaching stuff. So a lot of people that are struggling with relationships or friendships or finding people that because maybe they were in a bad circle of friends, maybe they're surrounded by a lot of negativity and they're ready to find a better positive group of friends. When it comes to living through a pandemic and trying to find a new group of friends, or when it comes to searching for a relationship, is there anything that you've kind of found helpful or that you kind of practice on a daily basis when it comes to that type of stuff? Or do you kind of have a set group of friends?
I definitely have a set group of friends that I have known since elementary school that have accepted me, and we just like talk about anything and be able to be open up with each other. But I think if we somehow, I'm blessed to have that, and they continue to, we continue to just vibe off each other and just, whatever happens, we're trying to support each other. But I think it's okay that if there are certain things that we want to reach out to a different group and maybe have a different perspective, it's more about, asking ourselves. I do a lot of like self-reflection more so, either whether it be journaling or just talking to other people who would at least listen and say like, this is what I'm going through. These are my like head thoughts and like, what are your opinions? Because I think a lot of times we just either create more challenges or obstacles for ourselves that once we actually at least just speak it out loud, whether it be for journal or just speaking out loud on a video or talking to a friend, that it helps us kind of like navigate through that. And when you find someone who actually vibe with you a little bit and be like, oh yeah, we have common understanding, we have the common goals. Like, we want to spread positivity. We also want to help people navigate through the goals and realize that they are able and capable. Then you're able to vibe off with that person and hopefully connect that. They continue to, communicate with you and build from acquaintance to a friendship or to a more longer relationship. And I think it's more in the beginning about having a little bit clarity of what you want, because I think a lot of times we just say we want friends or we want a relationship or we want a great relationship. What does that mean for you? I think being more specific in how we define things help you look for things that are going to be heading towards the direction that you want. If it's everything that's, you're looking for a relationship, for example, I want to a guy that's going to be great for me. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does happiness mean for you? What type of communication, what type of qualities means for you? I think it's great to at least explore those options and have open communication. before when I, talk to anyone for dating wise, sometimes we just talk about what we like to do, just what we like to do and where we like to go. And those are great too. I think you can explore with each other and find different like experiences and go through those and build those shared memories. But we forget to, talk about values. We talk about where we want to be, what family would be like and stuff like that. And I think for people who are ready for that and you have those conversations, they'll be ready for that too. They'll meet with you. And for those who are not, it's okay to be like, okay, they're just not the right timing, or it's okay to not be with the person that's not there with you, if that makes sense. And just be like, just move past it along. When you find that person, they'll be right there for you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really great advice. That's right along the lines of what I usually tell people. I think that a lot of times people are trying to fill a spot in their life, but they're not
Hmm.
really aware of what that spot is and they can't really advertise it. I always tell people that you should start living the life that you want your new friends to be a part of. You should live the life that your boyfriend or future significant other would be a part of, because if you're not putting that image out, if you're not showing the world that this is what you want, then the people that you attract into your life are going to be just as bland and just as unknown as
Mm.
you are putting out, the signals that you're putting out. And a lot of times in that situation, you're going to attract someone else who's desperate for a relationship or desperate for a
Hmm.
friendship just because they're alone. And you will spend time trying to get to know each other, and you will come across that clashing point where it's just like you send each other in the opposite directions. Because if you don't really know who you are as a person, then how can you expect someone else to like learn to get to know you and understand you, because you don't understand yourself yet?
Hmm. Hmm.
I've kind of, like, when I was a little bit younger, I always said that I used to attract so many different people. I was just like, I used to just have people messaging me all the time. And I was like, what happened? So, like, now that I'm older, it's just like like people are just blown away and don't want to come around me. And I realized it's because I've got a more defined path and like
Hmm.
definition of who I am as a person. And I kind of put that out for the world to see. And
Hmm.
that kind of, before people even come into my life, they kind of get hit by that wall of this is what he's looking for. And they're like, you know what?
Hmm.
That's not what I'm looking for. And that's not a bad thing. Like,
Hmm.
having less choices is not a bad thing. It means
Hmm.
that you're attracting people who are more like you as a person. And I think
Yes.
that a lot of times that can be looked at in a negative way, and people should be looking at it in a more positive way,
Hmm.
because it's better to have people who are more like you, who are passionate about the same thing, who have very similar values as you do. And the older I get, the more I realize that there's a lot of people that I wouldn't date because the values are way off. And that doesn't mean either of us are bad people.
Hmm.
It just means that our values don't align, and they can be a good person over there. I'll be a good person over here. And we will find the people that are meant for us at the end of the day. And, well, not at the end of the day. At some point in our life, we will meet the people we're meant to be with. And I think that with this pandemic and with everything that's going on, we are starting to see a lot of people's values that don't align with ours, whether it's
Hmm.
political values that are very, very strong. Because, like you were saying, I think that it's okay to have differences, and it's okay to discuss those things. And I think that it's good to get into the root of things and understand people's values behind who they vote for. Um, but I feel like right now a lot of people are just burning bridges instead of saying, "Hey, we've got different views. I
Hmm.
just I don't see us hanging out every day, but I don't
Hmm.
hate you. You're just going to be
Hmm.
over here living your life, and we can be civil with you being over there."
Yes.
Um, but I think that especially around here, it's very, very polar, because we have very liberal cities, but for the most part, it's
Hmm.
very conservative land outside of that. And unfortunately, I've just kind of been seeing negativity everywhere from both sides. It's not just one side. Like, everyone
Hmm.
seems to be attacking each other's views. And I think that even after elections, even after whoever gets elected becomes president, um, I think we've still got some stuff that needs to be worked on. And I think that cutting each other off is definitely not the way we're going to be able to heal. I think we need to find ways to come together, and everyone's got to work on that.
I definitely agree with that too. You know, a lot of times I think what's the positive note to come out of that, or the silver lining, is that because there's so many polarizations, there's so many ideas and thoughts, things comes up to the surface. And when things come to the surface, we're able to address them. And hopefully, you know, it's more about, instead of attacking each other or trying to, um, you know, just like having these like different campaigns, ads and stuff like that, just throwing each other and you know, bad mouthing each other. It's more about, let's put up the surface and let's see, you know, how we can actually deal with it as a group or as a community, right? And see what works the best, right? Because at the end of the game, it's not about, you know, just the person. It's about how we can continue to build the community. How can we service the community as well? So we've just kind of like, you know, forget and just trying to elect someone and not just elect someone who's going to service the community. It kind of loses the meaning of what the presidency is about, if you would. Um, so I think it's always good to at least some way, you know, there could be a better way of, you know, bringing up those topics. There could be a better way of, you know, discussing those topics. But because it is what it is already at this point, where now we have to say, okay, things are up to the surface. How can we now mitigate anything that we don't want? And how can we also just like come back together as a community? Because in any state of, you know, form of the world, we need to have a community in order for like the long-lasting livelihood of everybody else. So hopefully we're going to be able to slowly work on that towards that goal.
Yeah, I definitely think that when it comes to a community, it requires people from lots of different backgrounds. It requires people with lots of different skill sets. I definitely believe in diversity when it comes to a company, when it comes to a country, when it comes to your group of friends. I think that having a group of friends with tons of different skill sets really opens you up to a better future for you moving forward, because maybe if you surround yourself with one entire group of people that think very, very similar to you, I think that you're eventually going to hit a wall or a ceiling that just says like there's nowhere else you
Mm-hmm.
can go, because you guys have run out of ideas because you all think so similar.
Mm-hmm.
I've always told people that when it comes to groups, you should find similarities, and that's what's going to bring you together as a group. But it's going to be your differences that make you a stronger group. So when you bring in new ideas, when you bring in new backgrounds, I think that makes your group of friends a stronger group of friends. Like, I'm the type of person, I love experiencing new things all the time. Like, I could
Mm-hmm.
not do the same job and same thing on repeat every single day. I love problem solving. I love being around it, learning new things every single day. So for me, like, I usually am more attracted to people from different countries, people from different ethnic groups, people that speak different languages, people. I mean, I've lived in 7 different states, and I've just, from the 7 different states I lived in, I saw that even within the United States, it is very different in each state. The
Mm-hmm.
gay community is very different in each state. Um, when I moved back to Virginia, I was just like, wow, the gay community here is very different than the ones that I met in West Virginia and Florida, Maryland, Chicago, like all the different places I've lived. But because of my background of being very diverse and having friends from everywhere, I mean, just from this live, I'm seeing some of my friends that are from different countries, which I've learned so much from just having conversations with them. And I feel like it just broadens my ability to, one, help people, and two, just like navigate my own career path or future for myself. Um, when it comes to your group of friends, like, how did you, like you said, you met a lot of them when it came to like going to school with them? For the people who have been like new to your life, how did you kind of meet those people?
So I have, you know, in Chinatown, we met like a group of friends that I have met since elementary. So I have like one or two friends that we just kind of like continue the journey of, being great friends. And then like in middle school, whoever I met, we just have a tight knit group, and then we kind of like carry that along. So everywhere along the journey, if you would, of like, from school to school to school, I also have like a few group of friends that I just like met, and we just kind of like bonded, and then everyone else somewhat along the way just kind of met each other as well. But for me, like new experiences is also great. There's like coming out to like the gay community and whatnot. Sometimes it's really hard to just like be out there. So what I did was like join an organization that was able to allow for like a safe environment to be able to meet different people. So it's just more about just exploring different areas of communities and be able to like just learn from them. But in the beginning, it's definitely very hard and intimidating. So I would actually want to ask you, how do you, or what type of advice would you give for people who may want that type of thought a lot of times, but may not be, or may be a little bit scared to step out of their boundaries to get there?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I always tell people, and you kind of hit it, is joining organizations that are like LGBT related. Just as much as the organizations like in-person face-to-face meetings are great, the social media aspect of it is also an amazing thing. I feel like in the gay community, it can be pretty judgmental. It can be really scary at first. I definitely think that certain people have different experiences when it comes to coming out and joining the gay community. I always tell people, don't accept your first impression of the gay community as what the gay community is like, because I've lived in several different states, like I was saying, and I had a different experience in every single state I went into. Some of them
Mm,
were very they were very cliquey, and they were groups that were already very well formed, and I was kind of like shunned out of the group.
mm,
And then there was times where I came to a state and I was just like accepted into the large gay community, and I was invited to events, and I really enjoyed getting to know people. I would say finding people that you relate to online is a great way. And I don't mean like dating apps. I mean like
mm,
actual LGBT organizations that are built for strengthening like your allyship. Um, Also, don't be afraid to create allies as well. I always tell people when it comes to LGBT, especially in the gay male portion of it, you have to realize that you can be friends with them, but at the end of the day, you are also their competition when it comes to finding a partner. And in that situation, it can kind of create a very hostile environment. But
mm,
there are people out there that are wanting to be friends. It can be a little confusing sometimes in the gay community because you develop feelings for people. And because anytime you find someone who's accepting of you and is loving, especially the gay people start off on a very lonely road because most of the time you're born into a very heterosexual family. So
mhm,
you have to form your own community and kind of take that path and find your group of people. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you find it on first try. Sometimes it takes a little bit of trying to find that community. But just like there's a billion different people out there in the straight community that do a billion different things, the gay community is just as diverse. And like you were
mhm,
saying earlier, really knowing who you are, I think, is important for finding a group of people in the gay community that you will relate to. In bigger cities, it's a lot more divided into like gays that do this, people that do
mhm,
this and that. And you just kind of have to find your people. In places where I'm at, it's a little bit harder to do that. It's more we're gay and we have to stick together because there's not a
mhm.
lot of us out here, and we kind of
Yeah.
have to support each other through stuff. And I think it's just important, like you were saying, to really, really, really focus on who you are and figure out what your values are, and don't give those up to try to fit into a community.
Mm,
There's a gay community out there. There's like, since this internet thing has taken over, like it's very different from when I first came out. Facebook had just been invented when I first came out. So I remember there were like Facebook groups like, I enjoy stepping on leaves on the sidewalk, and I would join a group like that. Whereas
Uh,
now, like, I'm a part of probably over 300 Facebook groups that are LGBT, YouTube oriented, and I've found friends across all of them. Um, I would say just stay positive. I know
mhm,
it can be hard, especially during a pandemic. It's and just realize that everyone's hurting. So when people are rude and when people ignore you, sometimes they're trying to find their own worth in other people. So you might reach out to someone and you have a full heart and want to be friends with them and show them love because you've seen posts that they've put and they really need love and pulled out a dark place. But they're so focused on someone else, like when people
mm,
say they want attention and they want love, usually there's a specific group or person that they're wanting it from and they're not getting it.
mm,
So always just trying to stay positive and don't allow other people's negative responses to you reaching out impact you and make you stop reaching out because there's a lot of people out there. The internet makes it easier. I always
mhm.
say put your most authentic self out there and the right people will find you. You've got to put it out, show the world who you are. If you love Pokemon and you play Pokemon Go all the
Mhm.
time, then go for it. There are
Mhm.
thousands of people out there, probably within a mile's distance in New York, that do the exact
Yes.
same thing, and you shouldn't be embarrassed by it. Don't surround yourself by people who silence your uniqueness because that uniqueness is how you're going to find your most authentic, amazing friends, and one day, hopefully, your life partner. But if you allow other people's negativity and hatred to silence that, and you start hiding who you are, and you
Mm.
start pretending to be something you're not to fit in with a group you don't belong with, you're going to probably have a very negative experience anyway.
Oh yeah, like it's just like a like never ending circle of just like almost like the self-hate continuing cycle. So I think it's more like, live or like at least, figure out what are the next steps that you feel like you can take, but it's not overreaching, but it's still out of your comfort zone and start to slowly build off of that, right? And I think that way you can slowly inch forward, inch forward, inch forward until you find, people who's going to also just lift you up and you're going to be able to find that community, right? So I think there's definitely, like you said, even if you in this world, like in your small area that you might think that, oh yeah, there's no one around me, but reach out. There's so many people around the world that's willing to connect. There, I have met so many like international people, and I'm just like, wow, like without social media or without a platform like this, and whatever we're going through, we would never connect, we would never be connected. But because of just being able to just reach out and just, find people who have connected values or connected like likes and, activities that you like to do, you'll slowly be able to build that community. And just don't be afraid to also reach out and say, hey, I might have a problem with, meeting new people and can you help me out? I think, sometimes we're too afraid to ask for help. And if we just, ask someone for help, who would say no, right? With the kind, with the right people, who would say no, I can't help you, right? So just, and just being able to say reach out, find someone and see how they can also just help along with your journey, and then you never know where that might grow.
Yeah, I I personally have realized that the more I become international when it comes to people who are reaching out to me, I'm starting to talk to people about their situations in different countries. And a lot of times we have to realize that what we are fed here in the United States by our media is very different than what's actually going on. And I think just from the protests and everything that we see on the news, if we live in an area where we're seeing it like firsthand, we know that the media is kind of twisting that image a little bit to
Mm-hmm.
kind of get the views that they want to get. And like when it comes to speaking to people from other countries, like thankfully when it comes to English, a lot of people from other countries are learning English. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot easier to communicate with people. And it's interesting because in the United States, we've got people where we're like, okay, this country's our enemy, this country's our ally. But I've got friends from all the countries. And when it comes to that type of stuff, I speak to them. And it's interesting the like image that other countries put on the United States.
Mm,
It's interesting what other people see when they are talking about Donald Trump as our president, and hearing other perspectives from other countries about what the United States is being perceived as right now. And with the pandemic going on and our numbers just skyrocketing, other countries are talking about us. We are definitely
mhm,
um, in everyone's viewpoint of discussion of what's going wrong with the United States. But I think that we've really got to work on not stereotyping and not just accepting an interpretation by the media of people of other countries, because most of the time it's a very political view. And just because a leader says something, we all know that we don't all agree with what Donald Trump says, and
mhm,
our country shouldn't be defined by him as one person.
mhm,
We've got to realize that there's people in all the other countries that completely disagree with the way things are being done. They're all working on creating change in a positive way. And just kind of reaching out and understanding people has been a lot of fun for me. Um,
mm.
since I was planning on going to Italy this year, I had reached out to a lot of people and made lots of friends in Italy. And just from those few connections that I've made a lot of really good friends, but I've also come to a very bigger understanding of how things are working in Italy and how things are working in
Mm,
other countries like Germany and England. It's interesting to get an insider perspective that's
mm.
not manipulated by the media.
Oh yeah, I mean that's the same thing for like Hong Kong or other places too. Like it's so media driven of how they want to view, but then it's also media driven by how your own country wants to view other countries as well. So I think it's great that we're able to like reach out to other people from different areas and just get their firsthand experience and see what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of things in the news, especially things happening like in the Middle East. And there's been a lot of people who have been finding my Instagram and YouTube channel from over there. And
Oh, wow.
uh, China doesn't have YouTube. Because I guess they don't want the people in China finding certain things online, but they do have a different platform that is very similar to YouTube. And someone has taken all of my videos off of my channel and put it onto that platform. So I've had a lot of people reaching out to me from China, letting me know that they've watched my stuff and that they've used it to like learn English. They've learned it to kind of learn about the LGBT community and the experiences that we have here in the United States. So
Wow.
it's very interesting. I definitely am flattered that someone took the time to take stuff off of my channel and still give me credit to where people can still reach out to me. I've used Google Translate 1,000 times
Oh yeah.
to understand what people are saying. It's not always the best, but
Hmm.
I think it's really cool. I've had some people pretend to be me, which is kind of sad. I feel bad
Oh
for the
wow.
people that think they're talking to me and then they find out that it's not me. Uh, I still would love to meet those people and talk to those people that think they're talking to me. Go ahead and talk to me on here. I'm fine with that too. But it's definitely an amazing thing that we've got. Just imagine like if this had happened in 2000, how very different it would be if we didn't have the technology and the social media platforms that we have now to connect with the people that right now we're having to social distance ourselves from.
Oh yeah, I think technology definitely plays a role. Imagine like, if you are stuck in a community where you may have feel trapped or no way out, that, it's hard for, certain individuals to even, reach out to anyone. But because of social media, you could just have your own little escape, right? And sometimes we all need that little escape to reach out personally to someone else and be able to be like, okay, we're connected. Someone understands me. Someone know what we're going through, and then we could pull it through together. So I think, a lot of things is, with the craziness, we all lose hope. But I think with, community, with the right type of mindset, we actually could bring hope and hopefully inspire other people to, be able to do more and reach out to other people as well and pull through.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I definitely have hoped that this platform that I've been building here has been doing that with all the types of things that I'm trying to put out there. I'm trying to find as much uniqueness out there and bring it together and show that everyone can kind of be a light. I think that there's a lot of people out there that assume that, oh, you have to have 20,000 people following you. Oh, you have to be good at being on camera. But there's a billion different ways that we can be spreading positivity out there when it comes to like politics, when it comes to movements. There's so many different ways that you can spread positivity and still not ignore those types of things. I think that those things are very important to be aware of, but we can't let it drain us of everything that we have when it comes to positivity. I think that it's really easy to open up Facebook or Instagram and be kind of blown into a very negative mindset just because of everyone's opinions. But every single person that's watching, every single person that's on social media, even if you only have 10 people that follow you or you're only friends with a couple people, like anything that you put out can inspire people and can encourage other people to try one more day. Like, I think that it's important to realize, like I've always said, I don't care if only one person is watching me. If my message saves one person or brings one person back from the edge, it's worth every minute that I'm putting into it. And I'm getting to the point now where like there's so many people reaching out to me that it hurts me to know that I can't comment and reply to every single person as soon as they message me. But I try to cycle through all of them because I do think that it's important to try to be someone's light whenever you can. So messages like this and being able to do a live, I hope that everyone that's watching knows that I care and knows that I want to help everybody. But I can also help however many people are watching this just by doing this. And it's a lot easier to do something like this than sit there and type paragraphs to the 500 different people that are sending me things in my inbox. But I think everybody, like I've said before, anytime people are leaving comments under my pictures, like if someone's saying I've had a really rough day, I love seeing other people that follow me respond to that person's comment.
Yes.
Because I've hoped that I could build a platform that it's a community. It's not, I don't want everybody focused on me. I want to create a community where everyone's loving, where everyone's there to help each other. And like doing these lives, like I've been pulling you guys out from the crowd because I think that you guys are great people that are those types of people that would comment when you see someone else struggling. And I want people that follow me to see you guys as well, because I think it's really important that people realize that we're a community, we are a country, we are a world of people that are here to help each other. And it's not just the people I'm pulling on lives with me that can help. Like everyone in the comments, like anyone that's throwing positivity under my posts are probably good people that you could probably reach out to and be like, I'm having a rough day. I saw your comments under here. I would love to kind of have a friend. I need a friend. I've joined endless quarantine, pandemic Facebook groups to kind of find communities of people. And I mean, if it's not the right fit, if you feel a negative vibe, if you just don't feel like you fit in, then delete it, find something else. Don't focus super hard on something that's not working. Don't focus on someone who's not making you feel good. Like there's thousands of people out there that will probably make you feel a lot better.
100% agree with you. And it's just like, we forget sometimes, but every one of you matter, and every one of you have the abilities and capabilities of doing something and doing the same thing that anyone else can do, spreading the positivity and being able to just being caring and listening ear and just trying to help one another, right? So I think sometimes we just forget that, we see someone like you might think, okay, only you're the only source, but everyone could continue to work with each other and build as a community. I think we could all lend in a hand, and that's what makes a community strong. It's just not just, on one person, but everyone's strength, everyone's participation, and everyone's participation, whether it be little, whether it be just coming in, whether it be just saying hi, whether it be contributing, I think also adds on to the value that we can bring. So, for me, I always tell people, sometimes people, when they do accountability, they have nothing to share, but their participation, their presence also brings the energy to it, right? So I think it's all about that, having the right mindset of how you approach things. And as long as you kind of start that idea, it's just going to continue to roll. Just don't give up on yourself that, that is not going well right now. It's more about continuing that, that journey and just continue to push through, and you'll be able to find someone, right? And if there's no one there yet, just reach out for someone, and I could guarantee you someone will be there to help you along the way.
Yeah, most definitely. I always remind people, like, sometimes you have to cut ties with people. I don't mean that in the way of like blow up at them and like
Mm.
create this big explosion to where you could never be friends again. But sometimes if you're in a really negative space, sometimes it's the people around you, it's the environment that you're in, it's the job that you have, it's the relationship that you're in. Sometimes you just have to cut ties and rely on yourself for a little bit and seek out those new relationships, new jobs, new environments, just because we only have one life.
Hmm.
You're only here once, you're not put here to be stressed out. You're not put here to feel horrible and hate yourself. You are supposed to be here on this earth to enjoy it. You're supposed to be here to add value, and I believe
Hmm.
everyone on this
Yes.
earth has something to add to it. And maybe you're in the wrong spot right now to where the people don't see your value. And that doesn't mean that you don't have something to give. It just means that you're in the wrong place and the people around you aren't the people that are meant to accept your gifts that you have to give. And I've told so many people, like, I started at 0 followers. I started with just the idea that I wanted to create positive change. And there was a lot of people that made me feel stupid for wanting to do it. And I really had to kind of cut people out of my life. And I do it on a regular basis where I'm just like, you know what? You're making me feel bad, and I know what I'm doing is a good thing. There's lots of people out there that need someone to show them that they care, and I'm going to find those people. So even when you're in a really rough spot, like if you're dealing with mental health, if you're dealing with abuse, if you're dealing with financial problems, those are all things that you can live through and grow from and share
Hmm.
those experiences with other people to help them through those experiences. And just like you were saying, you found people on YouTube, you've looked stuff up, you found other groups. If you're struggling with something, there's 1,000 other people out there that have probably struggled with the same thing that are probably sharing their stories online, and you can find
Hmm.
them. You might not be able to connect with someone who's got like 1.5 million people, but look in the comments. The comments are usually from people that are experiencing the same thing as that celebrity is talking about in the video, and
Hmm.
those people can respond. Those people might only have 12 followers, just like you do. And those people are probably looking for someone to talk to. And that's where you can kind of start building your community, because a figurehead at the top, they're usually up there because they've started down here and really believed in something and created a community. Maybe that person's hard to reach, but the people underneath are just like everybody else. And I would say that there's tons of people that are way above me that I have found my community within their following. And I think that that's a great place. Like, if there's someone that just their message really resonates with you, look in the comments. Like, those people are the ones you want to make friends with, because they also somehow resonated with the message being portrayed
Yes.
by that person.
Yeah, they're definitely the more active. They're right there commenting. They're right there, on that moment with you. So I think those are the better way to reach out, right? And I think what you just said just reminds me of a story about, I think, I'm not sure how exactly it goes, but sometimes people wanting to measure the ability of a fish by seeing how tall it can climb a tree. And just that, it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes we just put in the wrong environment, and we're also are expected to do a certain things, but we also have different capabilities. We also have different strengths, and we sometimes just forget that just based on what other people think our values are or should be. So I think, yeah, that's where I was going with that story.
I love that story, because I've used that so many different times. Because I always tell people, I'm like, even like the strongest fish in the ocean, the one that like swims the fastest, like biggest fish in the ocean, whatever you're measuring, no matter what, if you ask that fish to climb a tree, they're not going to
Hmm.
be able to do it. So you have to find your community where your value
Hmm.
is like worth something. And it's okay to try a couple different things. But don't waste your life wishing that you could climb a tree if that's not what you're meant to do.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of people that can be role models in doing things that you would love to do, but just be aware that some things might just be out of your reach, but that doesn't mean that you are worthless. You are
Hmm.
still fully capable of doing exactly what you are meant to do. You just have to really, once again, self reflect and
Hmm.
really get to know you. I didn't get to where I am right now uh, just by luck. Like, I do a lot of self reflection. And I think within the gay community, that's something that a lot of people don't do. I think a lot of people try to use alcohol, try to use hookups, try dating apps. They try to do things to numb that
Hmm.
because it's scary sometimes to get to know yourself on a deeper level because when you see your positives, you also see your negatives. And the negatives are scary to look at sometimes, but it was my negatives that I focused on and used to push me forward. I was like, okay, I'm really bad at this. I am really good at this. How can I use my strengths to kind of mend out my weaknesses or make my weaknesses not as strong to where they're like hindering me in life? And that's kind of pushed me forward and it's got me to really realize because I went to school for architecture and that is absolutely not what I'm doing right now. And it's something
Hmm.
I would probably never do in the future. I would probably design my own home in the future, but
Yes.
architecture is definitely not for me. But that's what I went to college for. And for the longest time, I felt worthless. I compared myself to the people who were just naturally good at it, the people whose designs were just like extravagant. And my mind just wasn't there. It wasn't what I was really passionate about. I really enjoyed helping people. And
Hmm.
that's how I really stepped back and focused on myself. And I was like, what am I good at? What makes me happy? What do I see myself doing in the future that I would just be like, I really want to do this? And it was helping people. So I'm doing that by these Instagram lives. I'm doing it with my life coaching. I'm doing it with my corporate trainer job that I have here at my company. And now that I'm doing this, like I am so much happier. I don't doubt myself and I'm constantly growing and I'm loving the growth that I see. And that's what you notice when you really start doing self-reflection. And that's the
Hmm.
path that you will begin to be like fall onto. And then you'll start pulling people into your life. And the friends that I've been doing my lives with, most of these people, we've become stronger friends because you guys are similar to me in the fact that you want to spread a positive message, you want to do good in the world, and those are the people that I've been attracting into my life lately. And I value those friendships so much more than any friendships I made when I was trying to become friends with people who were trying to become architects, because for me, that wasn't my passion and I couldn't relate to
Hmm.
them on that level. I saw them be passionate about it and I loved seeing them do that,
Yes.
but I felt so lost because I just wasn't passionate about it.
No, yeah, same thing too. Like, I study psychology and just more about like, having conversation with people and people are like, oh, you'd be good at it. But originally I was doing like physics and science, so a lot of times it's just more about trying to explore, try the things that you might think you might want and just like explore to see whether or not it's for you. Sometimes it's also good to find out that those are not the things that you want to explore. Those are also very valuable lessons or very valuable information for you to be like, okay, that's not what I want, and just really dig deep. What are you really passionate about? What can you really spend the energy and time for? Because even the things that you're passionate about, you still have to put in the work, right? You still have to really, put in your own due diligence in terms of the literature, the education, practice, experience and stuff like that. But, I think anything that's worthwhile, you will have to put in that work. But then it's going to be so much more fun when you just like continue to move forward where you're like, okay, I'm getting better. And passion, I feel like it's a great energy driver where sometimes you just feel like there's those spurts of energy that you have no idea where it's coming from, but you just kind of wanting to do more and more and more. So I would say definitely continue to like, explore different passions, explore things that you want to do. And just remember that you have to put in the work, but it's going to make it easier when you be able to, surround yourself with the same people, with the same mindset, the same community, right? I had a friend who was like passionate about woodworking, and just suddenly through this pandemic he just like loved to work with like different wood, so he started getting different gear. So you know just it's more about putting that work, find the people who in the same mindset and just like work on it, and then see where that takes you. And I think that's where we can do it during this pandemic, to find out more things that we can explore on ourselves, right? Find ourselves as like, okay, check, nope, cooking is not a passion. It's something that I like to do. I like to eat, but it's not something that I'm like great at to continue practice. So I'll eat instead and explore through that factor.
Yeah. And I mean, we live in a world now where you really just have to do what you're passionate about and put it out there. Social media
Mm-hmm.
makes it so easy to connect with people. Like you were saying, I had a friend that loved woodwork. Like, he was just so passionate about it, and he failed a lot. Like, when it came to trying new different styles of doing different wood stuff. And he was just putting it out on the internet, and people were like, hey, like, next time try this. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it makes it a lot easier when you're doing this with this tool. It's meant for this type of stuff. And people are so afraid sometimes to share their mistakes,
Mm,
share things that they're struggling with. But a lot of times there are good people out there who want to help, and they're not going to charge you for it. I've
mm,
put my struggles out there so many times where I'm just like, oh, I've been dealing with this when I'm trying to do certain things, and they're like, oh, have you tried this? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. So
yes.
people just have to realize that, one, put your passions out there, because there's people out there that are going to love you for it. And two,
Yes.
don't be afraid to make mistakes. That's how you learn. That's how you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be ashamed of making mistakes, because those are things that you should put out there. Like, hey, every single time I try to do this with this type of wood, it ends up breaking it in half. Someone can be like, oh, well, that wood isn't strong enough to use that type of tool. You have to use this type of tool. And that can be used on any type of platform, no matter what
Mm,
you're doing. And people just have to realize, like, that's why we do things. That's why we bring people together for community functions and stuff. That's why when they do stuff in like the medical field, they bring people from all over the world, because there might be something that you and your community knows that me and my community don't know. And
mm,
when we bring people together, that's why I hate seeing so much division in this world,
mm.
because the more divided we are, the more like we are struggling on our own in separate worlds that could be so much easier if we just came together. I know that our team that I work with, I love them so much. Like, there's so many things that I'm very open with my struggles. I don't sit there and try too long before I reach out to someone. I'm like, hey, I'm struggling.
Mhm.
I'm not afraid of people looking at me like, oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. I would rather them be like, hey, he's trying to learn, and he's going to learn a
Mm,
new skill by me helping him with this. And I think that too many people are scared of sharing those failures, because they're
mm.
afraid that they're going to be judged and looked down upon, when they should be saying, hey, these people are going to notice that I'm willing to grow and want to learn from my mistakes.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I think we're just so conditioned to say, one failure is really much like the end all of things. Like, we didn't get a grade, we didn't, do one job well, and then that's it. But like, in life, it's just more about going through the failures, right? That reminds me of another story, just like how kids start to learn how to walk, right? When they, pick themselves out and take the first step and they fall, they don't just like, okay, I fell, I give up, I'm not gonna walk ever again, right? So it's more about like, having the right mindset. Like, when do we become so jaded and just kind of like unprogram our mind that we can just like, okay, now we had to like work through those failures. It's okay to fail, because that gives the opportunity to learn. It's okay to fail, because that gives the opportunity to grow and learn and be better, right? And without failures, I feel like we also just lose on, if everything were just like one step to the end goal, we lose all those values, we lose all those like things that we can learn in between. And what happens when there's something that mishap that happens? We don't have those failures to guide us. So I think, it's more about changing our perspective in terms of what those failures can bring to us. And a lot of times we need to switch in terms of, oh, they can actually bring some good value. They can actually help us reach out and, do all the stuff like you said, build a better community and, learn from each other as well. So yeah, gotta shift those failure mentalities.
Yeah. Um, we can begin to wrap things up because I see that we've passed our hour. I've been doing that a lot lately. But the thing that I always tell people is if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, because if you're surrounded by tons of people, like, it's great to be a teacher, but I do lots of leadership seminars, and I always tell people, I'm like, we're all adults here. And if you feel like you've got information to share that I am not sharing, go right ahead. I'm still very young. And when it comes to what I'm teaching from my own experiences and what I'm trained to teach. But I'm also completely open to learning. As a life coach, I learn a lot from the experiences that I have with each individual client. Every client brings new problems, and within those problems that I'm trying to help them solve, I'm also growing as a person. So I feel like I'm very thankful for my career choice, just because it is a forever growing for me type of situation. So I will forever be learning, as long as I'm in this field, which is exactly what I've looked for and need to know in a week, and then you just do it on repeat. I could never do that. But I would say that's kind of my going away point. Like, if you're the smartest person in the room, find another room, go grow. You got to grow somewhere. But is there something you would like to say to wrap up our call?
Yeah, just continue to try new things and explore, and don't be afraid to get out there and make mistakes. Don't be afraid to reach out to one another and just find a community that, just vibe with you the same way, and we'll make it through together.
Awesome. Well, I really, really appreciate you doing this with me. I had a lot of fun. I think that the people that were commenting really enjoyed what we were talking about. Hopefully, this will go along the shelves with everybody else's lives that I've been doing. I think that a lot of people will enjoy this. I definitely enjoyed our time together here. Hopefully, we can do something like this again. And I know we've already kind of planned to do some things together in person once this pandemic is over. Hopefully I'll get to come up to New York. Maybe you can come down here and explore. But
Yes.
hopefully you have a great evening, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for everyone for being here as well. I'll
Awesome.
see you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.